Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Thursday. It's October 31st. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and this is going to wrap up our week. Seemed like it was a really fast one. I guess when you take Monday off, it goes by a little quicker. No chart lessons on Fridays. Um, Mostly all downhill today. You see, we had a couple legs down. We had much more than a measured leg here. There's a two-tiered channel working down right here. And we had a break here, and we tried a couple of times to make a new low and just couldn't quite make one, and we finally rallied out of there a little bit towards the end of the day, but really up until 2 o'clock we were still trending down, even though it's a lot weaker here. There's actually a trend line working down through here as well, that you can see right there. So anyway, it was all downhill today for the most part. Of course, we had a nice rally here, but when you get a two-tiered channel this large, it's a long way back up here. And notice that we came up short, so there's a good chance we're probably going to get our break. We either get if we get an overshoot or come up short, there's a good chance we're probably going to get a break maybe. So that's where you got to be careful trying to get short along here. But we do get the break, and then we continue lower, and we bounce here at this support area, and then we bounce here again, and we just can't quite get down there to that new low by the end of the day. So, but mostly all downhill. Some pretty good trades early on. If you couldn't find any trades today, I've got one long in here. This really probably is really close to being green, but I wasn't real sure on this trend line yet. It looks legitimate, but you can't really, as you see it looks like it fits over here for the most part. So maybe we got an overshoot here and then the break and attempt at a new low on that as well. But I just wasn't happy with the way this was fitting. Earlier on I had it here, and then I moved it down to here. And we did get a couple of bounces there, but it looks like really it's bouncing off the bigger trend line that's coming down through here. So it's really hard to say if that trend line's valid. I played the shorter term ones and was looking at this more as a range here. And when we came off the lows, I was looking for prices to come back. But we did turn back down here. So maybe it's legit, maybe it's not. It's just hard to kind of tell really, because this line is coming into play. And then you've got a little shorter term trend here that's also coming into play. But mostly all downhill today except for this correction right here. And this is the one you assume you get this leg down in this correction, and so you would measure this leg, assume this is the center of the pattern, and look for a measured move. And you can see we went a little further than that before we bounced. And pretty good trading day. A little volatility today. Some of these bars are rather big, and that makes a big difference too. But I'm going to back out, and we'll talk about the trades, and we'll wrap this week up. Let me back out a little bit here, make it a little easier to see. When you get this much volatility and this much movement, it gets a little harder to see the bars. But the way I got this trend line was I drew it off these two swings down here, and I just drug it up. And when we came back, you can see it fit nicely here. So we had this trend working up. We did get a break here, but a lot of times you can ignore that break right there because it's in the overnight session. And while you want to be aware of it, a lot of times sometimes you'll get a break and you'll get back in here and you just keep going. But in this case, the bigger pattern here really took over. So, but anyway, 7 o'clock came right in here on this little second entry long. Not a very good signal. If it was, you might consider going long there, but we've been working down here, and you can see this trend line. Actually, I don't have it on there. I guess I should put it on there before I say you can see this trend line. You can see this one was working down about like so, and we had a little break here and a new low, and then we started up, and we did get a break here. Notice that's a new swing low though, and first entry, and so there's a second entry short right there that fails, and this bounces right off the trend line, and that's really two legs back to the trend line as well. And if this trend line is going to be correct based on the way we drew it off the bottom. And the reason you really could verify that is you can see how it kind of fits down the midline. It's playing out perfectly there. So there's a good chance this is probably going to be right. I still made this green because it's just not real. You really don't have this confirmed yet. So even though you got a good idea, it's probably right. It just hadn't been confirmed until we got the third touch. So here's your second touch, and then here's your third touch, and so that pretty much confirms it for you. But notice that this is 2 legs back. Even though this one a tick or so higher, that's still a 2-legged move. I'd still call that 2 legs. It's a little bit congestive too, and a little failed break out of that that bounces right off the trend line. Fairly bullish bar. You may go long there. It's a little risky, but if you've been doing this a while and you trust your reads and you think you got this trend line right, it's probably worth the risk. It runs up, and this one is tempting, and it turns down exactly where you would want it to. However, I would wait and see if you get a lower high, which comes right here, and it's a big bearish bar, and there's still a little room back to the EMA too. If this was right into the EMA and it was bouncing, I'd probably say, hey, wait. But I like that trade just simply because it confirms that trend line. If you found this and know how to find them from the opposite side, and it's fitting so well like that, I'd probably take that every time. It does come back here, gives you a failed second entry long. Technically, that's not a failure, but you could treat it like that. But with that not being a very good signal bar, I'd probably wait again. And you see the market's just not sure, but you can see this trend line is pretty much playing out. There's a second entry short right there. I like taking it on a lower high off this. But when it comes back again and finally gives you that that failed second entry long and really a double test and that bearish bar, and you can see that trend line's fitting perfectly, that's where you want to go short for sure, if you weren't already short. And if you wanted to, you could add on there. I probably wouldn't if I'd already gotten in here. But this pretty much when it came up this third time and failed. And it even comes back one more time. This is really a double top, so first entry, second entry. This almost looks like a repeat pattern of what we saw right here. Notice you come down. It looks a lot like a repeat pattern. And that's a fairly bearish bar. It's not a perfect one. But again, look at it turning down right off that trend line. And then finally, I would draw this secondary trend channel in here as well. And you get another bearish bar right there off of it. And that's the one. It finally gives up and takes off. Then it comes back to this trend line again. I made this one green because this bar is just so big. And you really, what you might have done was go short right here, because that's technically right off that trend line as well. And so you might have gone short right there if you waited. I really like this setup, but the problem is this bar is so big and you're going short right into that support. And notice it comes all the way across here. Actually, we're a little bit below that. It's like a little breakout pullback. So it gets a little more risky here. If you entered right up here, this is very low risk. There's like 3 ticks in that bar. If you entered right there, I'm good with this being a red one. But if you waited until here, unless you had a smaller bar, bearish bar, that one's just a little risky. I guess I could mark that both ways. I just wasn't really sure how to mark that, but we'll mark it both ways, like so. And of course we run on down and we bounce, we come back, and notice you get a first entry and then there's a second entry right here. It didn't break higher and you're not quite back to the EMA or the trend line, but you're finding this resistance right here. And this is almost basically a lower high because we came up and we tested it and we couldn't even get back that high, and you got a bearish bar. So it's a second entry short on a lower high. And this thing has been so bearish, I'd go ahead and take it. There's another second entry right here, but we didn't get a good signal bar. You got a lower high even right here, and this midline's in play, but now you don't get a very good signal bar, and you're going short right into this double bottom, so it's a little risky. and it drops on down. But you could have had a runner here, a runner here, a runner here, maybe here. You wouldn't have got one off these two or this. You might have got a little small runner here, but it would have come back pretty quickly. So, but you could have got runners on several of these right here, and that's what you're hoping to do is catch one of those runners. Then we come down here and we actually overshoot this shorter term channel, but we can't get down here to the lower side. But you see we overshot it and it comes back. And it'd be nice if you got a little setup to try to catch a low, but it's just really risky. This is a very weak market right here, and we're overdone on the measured move. So you know we're probably going to get a bounce soon. And there is a failed second entry short here, but we never got through the EMA. You want to see that failure come back on the other side. It just doesn't do it. That's one that you might say, hey, I might risk that one. It's only about 4 ticks in that bar. But again, you're trying to pick a bottom. But we do have some evidence here because we look at all that support that we got the failed break. That's one thing. Plus you got the overshoot of the two-tiered blue channel. The only problem is we didn't get down to the other side here. And there's a good chance it turns up there and traps you and comes down. But my guess is this is going to trap shorts because we're probably overdue to at least, with this overshoot, we're probably coming back to at least right here. And we're probably coming all the way back up to here. And so that's why you may take a chance on that one because you got plenty of room. You see that's exactly where it went. It never triggers again. It just kind of keeps working up that trend line. I don't think you want to risk getting long anywhere up in here. I don't see anything I like. And then we get the overshoot. And that's not totally unexpected because we came up short here. And notice you get your break. You tried to make a new high, but so you get a double top on a lower high and a big bearish bar way away from the EMA. You got plenty of room to scalp out. Then you get your failed second entry long. This is what a good reversal looks like. You pushed on through the EMA and then pull back. And this actually broke higher and turns and comes down. You really could have gone short 1 tick below that bar. But even if you wanted to go short there, I wouldn't be against that. And you actually get a close here and a new low. But you get 2 more legs down. There's really 2 legs here with 2 legs in the second leg. You can see leg 1. And this is leg 2. And it went just a tad more, but there's 2 swings in this leg. Or you could look at this as a 2-legged correction. And then you come over here and then you see it's a perfect measured move. So that's like the center of the pattern, basically. And it's tempting. The only reason I didn't mark this one, you could go short here too, but we've already had the break of this trend line, and there's only a few ticks down here, so it could only go 1 or 2 ticks. And this is just such a big bar. You're really taking a lot of risk because your stop has to go up here. And so the only way would be let it break lower and maybe come back, and you don't want to wait till it's already made the measured move and then try to come back. So again, we come up here. I think I drew this originally off right across here. But you could draw it right across here as well. And we come back to that trend line. We try to go higher once. We try to go higher a second time, and you get a double test there with that big bearish bar. Really, you're just playing this as a double test. It turns back down. And then I was playing this secondary trend line. I drew it off the lows, pulled it up, and you get a second entry short right here with a big bearish bar. You make a new low, first entry. There's actually a second entry short right there, but that bar is a perfect doji. Then you get a lower high here, and I marked this one green. It actually broke higher and then turned and went down. But by the time you go short down here, you're right into all these lows again. And you did get a break of this possible trend line right here. So it's just a little risky, but it is almost like a repeat pattern of right here. You tried to go higher, so like a double test. So I marked it green. What you might have done is let it break higher, and when it broke out the other side, drop a limit order in and see if it would have backed up, and it would have. You probably could have got filled at least to right here and maybe another tick or so, and then it dropped on down, and of course you don't want to go short way down here. It looks like an overshoot now. Then we come back, and this one is tempting, but it's just a first entry, and the big thing is we had an overshoot down here, what looks like an overshoot. This was the one I think I talked about that I just wasn't sure about this channel. It just nothing fit really, and you can see it still doesn't fit very well. It looks semi-valid, but it just doesn't fit very well, and so I was never really pleased with this. So I don't see any reason to go short right here. And then we come up and we get a second entry short that fails right there. It's not a very good signal bar, so you wouldn't take the short, but you may take that long just for the retest right there. And that runs back up and makes a new high. And that's tempting right there, being that far away from the EMA, especially with a break and a move up. So, but you already had a little one right here that was kind of tempting as well, and you see it would have failed on you. So you're almost always better off to wait on the lower high, which comes here. And I'm not crazy about that one because you're going short still on that same move. Even though you came back here, there's a short-term little move down through here, and you can see that's still part of that move. So when it comes back and it failed second entry long, then I like going short right there, and you can see it dropped on down pretty quickly. I'm just going to remove this because I just never was happy with that. I think you're better off to play in these shorter term ones because that one just never would fit properly. And we come down, we get an overshoot, and you get another second entry short right here, but you can see it's not a very good signal bar. This is an inside bar. That's one that you may go short there. That's where the second entry short triggered, but this is really your signal bar, and it's got a lot of stem. But that's another one that, you know, as bearish as this thing's been, you may take that one. Well, at least make it green. But let me explain this just to make sure it's clear. I wouldn't go short below that bar, but that's where your stop has to go, and that's really your signal bar. But this little inside bearish bar, when it broke lower right there, you can see that was a quick, easy move, and you would have had a runner there too. So you may take that one. It is a second entry. We are working lower. There's some reasons to like that trade, but it's just not a perfect setup. But then we bounce, and that takes us in the 2 o'clock hour. If you'd had a good signal bar here, you might have gone long right there, because it is a double test. Notice we made those lows. We came over here and tested once. We tested twice. Just not a very good signal bar. Very neutral bar to almost bearish. So, and there are two legs. And notice this. There's this move, and there's another little double test leg in there. So, leg one and leg two. It's almost another perfect measured move. Let me clarify that too. I talked to somebody earlier today, and they asked me about that. And generally, when you get in these tight ones like this, you're not going to get a center pattern with those double moves. And generally, these shorter term ones like this, you're not either. They're there, kind of hidden, like this one was right here that I showed you. And if you measured it from here and then from here, calling that a two-legged pattern, it's a perfect measured move. And really, you could almost do that right here as well. There's a little two-legged pattern. But you won't see that two-legged pattern as often like that. And then, again, we just talked about this one, and we measured it. But that is a two-legged pattern. And so once you head down from here, you may get a measured move. But it's just not as reliable as the bigger patterns, like measuring this one and then measuring this one. So, you know, a lot of times what will happen on these, you'll get this channel working down early, but it'll be real steep like this, and that's too steep. And then you'll get a two-legged correction and then start a new trend that will be similar to that first one. But it didn't really work that way today. You didn't see that today. So it was a little different. It was just mostly downhill with this two-tiered channel with a break and several attempts at a new low that never could make, and then it kind of rallied. And notice here there's a two-legged That's your first move. And then you got a little two-legged correction. And lo and behold, you basically get almost a perfect measured move. So market moves in twos, and that's the reason we're looking for that. That's the reason we look for second entries, and that's the gist of it basically, is the market does things twice. It moves in twos. But it was a pretty good trading day. Especially, and again, you didn't even need to find this bigger channel. It helps so you kind of see the bigger picture and know why prices are still trying to go lower here, because they're trying to get this retest. But if you could just find this one and these shorter term ones, that's all you really needed. Those will help you tremendously. And this last one was a spiking channel working up. This took us on into 2 o'clock, so I didn't really mark anything in there. But that's usually the key, is to find these shorter term ones and work off them. Now this one would have helped you here on the best set, these original setups up here. But even if you didn't find that, you could have found this one and caught one of these. And if you catch one of these, probably with a runner, maybe all you need today. Two of them you might have made, you could have doubled your target today or whatever. So just keep that in mind. Always look for those shorter term ones. And even within those, you can get an idea, like this one right here. You got this short term one right here. And it's kind of coming to an end. When you close outside of it, you can look for a little rally, and it rallies back to here. Then you got a short term one down through here. So if you get a little setup off of this shorter term one, you can take that too. You don't really get those a day, because it really just kind of, the bottom just kind of fell out every time afterwards. Every one of these, once it turned down, the bottom just kind of fell out of. This was a very strong downtrend. You can see that. Let me back out just a hair there to make that a little more. See all those secondary micro trends. You can see those little trend lines working down right through there. Like that one right there. If that had been a bearish bar and wasn't so close to the lows, that'd probably be a nice one to take. Most of these are not going to help you, because the bottom just drops out of it real quick. But if you had a little jog back, and there's situations where those will help you. This is not a good example of it, but still draw them all the same. And by drawing this one, you know to stay out of this until at least here, and probably here. So that's the idea behind these. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Hope you had a good week. It was a fast week, especially for me, since I was out Monday. It's always good to come back, though, after a vacation, feeling refreshed, and we got a little movement by the this week after all too. So, but we'll be back again to do it Monday. I'm done for today. Hope you have a great weekend. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.